to the Unlock a Life You Love podcast. My name is Dr. Tim Teel. I am the doc of Unlock, helping you find flourishing good health and expansive well-being by bringing on some folks on this podcast who have a message that resonates with the very message that we're trying to help you do, is unlock a life you love. And today, to help us tell that story and to share her story, is a fantastically interesting young lady by the name of Lindsaya Van Deusen. I met Lindsaya, what was it, last year, 2023, I think, and at a workshop of how to tell your story, and she started to tell her story. And I'm like, oh, I gotta go talk to that lady. And so what I want to do is just let you introduce yourself, Lindsay, and tell us what your story is.
Yeah. Oh, I love you, Tim. Whoa. And my whole
Apparently, you're having an earthquake there in Detroit.
Detroit, apparently
Eh,
my little stand just she went tobogganing right on
That's
into my lap. You guys
it's
all came
okay.
with me. That was the red carpet. I actually just said, I'm gonna preface this. I said to my son this morning, he just turned 14. And we were talking about embarrassment on the way to school. And I said, listen, I've tripped walking on stage in front of hundreds of people. I said, Micah, always know it's okay to laugh at yourself, and we're always going to be human and make mistakes. And so I love that God reminded me of that right before we take this stage. Yeah, so I'm Lindsaya. I am, most importantly, I am a light and love leader. That is the most important thing. I'm someone who is a self-love mentor and leader, and I do a number of spaces in the personal self-acceptance and personal development and, self-growth space. I am a wife and a mother, and I have two beautiful children, 20 and I said 14. So an adult child and one that is still home with me. And I am dynamic. I am a creator. I'm an artist. I am a business professional. I've done many things, and I'm sure if you're in this space, you could probably reflect upon the things you do too. So yeah, I'll be excited to bring what I love forward here while we chat. And Dr. Tim Teel, I absolutely adore you.
Thanks. It goes both ways, dear. So the reason that I wanted to bring you back, and we've talked many a time before, and we'll talk more again. When we were in this workshop, you shared your experience with being in the medical system, and some of the things that you were experiencing, and said, this isn't okay. We didn't get the whole story before we kind of did some things. So tell me where this all got started.
Yeah. So my story starts as a 13-year-old girl who was diagnosed with body dysmorphia. I had a laundry list of health issues: eczema, asthma, acne, migraines, started menstruation at the early age of 9 years old, which is actually nowadays, that's actually the average age of menstruation. And 31 years or 39 years ago, 31 years ago, it was different. That was considered premature. And so I'd love for your audience to really hear that. 30 years ago, I was considered premature to begin menstruation at 9. Today, right now, that's the statistic in the United States, is that the average beginning of menstruation is 9 years old. So in that span of time, it will also coincide with my story because I had a bill of health that was really, unfavorable, things that were spoken over me and about me that were said to be with me for a lifetime before I was even 18. And I also was overweight. And so I also experienced the eating disorder thing, I like to say, the disordered eating. And lots of stories, lots of identities. I went on to have my children and still had zero true love for me. I equated my worth to my body. And I did the infamous mommy makeover. The abdominoplasty, also known as a tummy tuck, was medical. It was considered life preserving, and it was going in to learn about that. And that's a whole nother story in itself. I was then proposed to also, do something with my breasts because I breastfed 2 babies. And if you've ever been a woman and these kinds of consultations, the reality is that they're always going to tell you how much better it could be with all of the things. And there isn't any complimenting, like, well, definitely not for me. No one ever said you should stay the way you are. It was definitely like, we should do everything. We should fix everything. And with someone with body dysmorphia, oh, it makes me tear up thinking about that because I felt already so unworthy. And then I had the professional telling me I needed everything. And so I ended up putting breast implants in and getting a breast lift too. And I knew going in that they said they were, every 10 years you should get a replacement. And they really did make it sound like it was like no big deal. You just like, you come in 10 years and then, it's a great time that like if they've been a little too big or a little too small. And I mean, it's just in my level of consciousness, it really didn't sound like it was any big deal. It just sounded like women do this all of the time. And as soon as I came out of that surgery, as someone who has given birth naturally 2 times and has a high pain tolerance and has broken every single limb and had multiple surgeries in her life for other things, I came out of that surgery realizing how horrid, and I woke up immediately knowing that like this wasn't right to have something in my body. And I said the whole time, like, I will only do this for 10 years. I'm never putting another set of boobs back in. I had no idea what was going to ensue with my health. I had no idea they were going to be at the root cause. I had no idea that they were that there was a black box warning. I had no idea what it meant to go back in and the rate of deformity. I had no idea that I would go from having breasts I kind of disliked to 1.5 and having had cancer on one of them. Like these truths that women, Facebook pages with, groups rather, Facebook groups with, tens of hundreds of thousands of women. And I'm far from the only story. And yet, if you hashtag plastic surgery, you see all of the glamorous stories. And I refuse to walk through this quietly and let another woman go in and be wounded because she's uninformed. When if you want to make an informed decision and take the risk, I believe that's the freedom of our country. And had someone told me what I was going to walk up against, which we can unpack here more at whatever level you'd like, I would have definitely done something differently. And I know that because I know me, and I know I already had reservation at the beginning. And it was because these things were not expressed that as a wellness warrior, I made the decision I did. And it was to great detriment to me, my mental health, my physical health, and my physical body.
What'd you learn about you in that process?
Oh, what I learned about me is how much of my life I have spent feeling unworthy, how much I have sought being affirmed by other people, particularly the masculine in my life, how much I have sought to be affirmed in that way and to be appreciated, and how much that puts the power outside of me. And in my faith journey, I am realizing that God has always been a father for me. And if I wouldn't have been so busy running away, I would have felt the love I was seeking. Yeah.
So, do you think that surgery can fix that?
No, it doesn't. And it's horrible because I say that where in a space where still reconstruction runs through my mind. And so I'm an ally. Like I'm far from judging anyone who hopes that if we look in the mirror, and I will also speak very honestly that when things look better, it's easier to love yourself. When you look in a mirror and you like what you see, and when you're affirmed by the world and the world's stereotypes, that you fit that in your physical body. And it's a truth that I'm the truth spreader. And so to say, like, because I've stood on both sides of that line, I know that it is easier to love myself when all of those things are also in line. And changing ourselves and the risk of what we do to our physical body and how many things we interfere with when we make these changes, that's the part where it truly is vanity over what genuine love is. And I'm on the journey. Like, I'm on the journey to continue loving myself deeply, accepting myself as I am, all of those things. So I recognize it is often far from easy. And I would say that when we keep, like, our bodies hate to be cut into, they hate to be adjusted. They really come into this world perfect and whole and able to heal on their own in the vast majority of things without, emergent situations. And the more we can minimize our interference from an external space, I believe that we remain our healthiest, most well version.
One of the things that appealed to me about osteopathic medicine is that the philosophy was that the body's natural tendency is toward good health, and that message really resonated with me as a potential medical school candidate. And I said, well, that's the only thing that really makes sense. And once you got into medical school, then you realize, well, the body's natural tendency is toward good health. But if we throw these pills at it, this is how you get paid for, for doing medicine. Or if we cut into that body and do what patients are asking us to, then that's the way you make a living in medicine. What I came to understand late in my medical career is that the physical body is just a physical body, and the operating system for it is not in the physical body. It's we are not bodies with souls. We are spirits having a human experience, and the real operating system for these physical bodies exists in that non-physical world. And when we start treating patients as if they were a piece of meat that is energized with emotion and spirit, crazy stuff starts to happen. And when we don't, and when we address them simply as a piece of meat, then you're going to have some treatment failures, and you're going to have things happen that didn't necessarily have to happen. We could have avoided an awful lot of complications here had we addressed the real primary issue, and that is that that we have a human being in here, an energetic, emotional, spiritual being that we if we don't address that first, then we're going to treat you like a piece of meat. And have all kinds of other crazy things start to happen when we treat them as a piece of meat. And we're happy to treat them as a piece of meat because that fits our our cash flow model. Ouch.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
what's really
that is,
behind it is a human being. So what did you do to to straighten things out?
well, I would say that the idea that we are healed is imaginary in many ways. So this is a journey for me. Loving myself is a daily commitment, choosing to accept myself and fuel myself and pour into myself and honor myself and celebrate those things. Like, the big, the small, the everything, that those are every moment decisions. Those aren't destinations. And I refuse to even place that expectation on it. So I do many things. One is I began a practice years ago, and 4 years ago, nearly 4 years ago, I brought it to a social audio interface. So 5 days a week, nearly 7,000 people in our community, and 5 days a week, we come into a daily self-love circle, and we, like you would a yoga practice, we practice, and we dig deep into dynamic conversations that allow us to unpack, and a practice that allows us to celebrate and really honor those things to pay attention to the language. Our language is everything. And so it's more important to me that I'm speaking intentionally than it is that I'm saying a lot of things. I'm very talkative, and the conscious words I choose are on purpose because it's it's MapQuest with the accurate directions. Like I want to make sure that I'm energetically in alignment with what I am seeking to see. We were able to turn that practice into a journal. So I journal it I journal the practice every single day. That means I pay attention to me, I listen to me, I observe me. I would say that if you believe in God or higher source, like you then are spending time like looking at how you can live in the way where you are a representation um of that behavior in the world. And to me, that's what I'm doing to show love to me. It's being willing to I'm a wellness warrior. I know you know this. So I, like you, speak about some of the unfavorable things. I am the truth spreader. And so I share things that often have me silenced and censored on many platforms. I'm constantly put in timeout. My content is, I'm often shoved in a corner. And I choose to do these things because for me, that's living in integrity. It isn't about popularity for me. It's about helping people find the information that was life-changing for me. And I was programmed too. I grew up, my mom had rheumatoid arthritis. She was diagnosed when I was 3. I lived in a hospital. We went there at least once a week for her, what they called gold shots. I thought the whole thing, I knew every doctor's office in the hospital on the way. They would give me lollipops and hot chocolate. I grew up thinking the medical model, and everything, every time I had something, it was another diagnosis. And that was normal for me. So I understand that mindset and thinking. And I also know that we can elevate and become aware and change our programming and heal. And I, through I haven't had an asthma attack. They asked me the other day, I haven't had an asthma attack in over 24 years. I threw my inhaler away nearly a decade ago, and I hadn't used it in over 5 years. They told me I would never, if I didn't grow out of asthma in my teens, it would be with me for a lifetime, right? These things, they're spoken over us, and then they get embedded into our consciousness, and we choose to believe them, and then we keep speaking the story and letting it be our identity. So when you ask me what have I done to heal or to go through, it is a recommitment daily to being conscious and intentional and what I'm seeking, what I like seeking to see, which means what I'm speaking, because they're all spells. And that's why it is called spelling. So it's an important thing.
And that's the juice I brought you to bring. Thank you so much. The words that we speak, throughout history, powerful speakers from Abraham Lincoln to Martin Luther King to John F. Kennedy to Ronald Reagan to whoever else you like to listen to. These people are they use powerful words, and those words have power to move us because they imply emotion. And behind that emotion is emotional energy, and behind that emotional energy is us. And so it's really critically important that we use the words that imply the emotion that we want in our lives, because the words that we use imply emotion, which behind that is emotional energy, and behind that is you. And so thank you for saying that, and also implying that there's a program running in our heads, just like we were a dadgum computer. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah, well, and I would actually go one step further. We, yes, have a program in our heads. We are what we consume by every stretch of the imagination, whether it goes through your eyes, your ears, your nose, your mouth, your skin. We are what we consume. We are an organism. That is really important because the vast majority of Americans still participate in their choice of news. And when you ask, is that true? Like, are we programmed? What we pay attention to and buy into becomes our programming. We are like Pavlov's dogs. That was hard to say. We too will learn to salivate. So it is so important for us as a mammal species to understand that we have the capacity. In fact, we have the propensity to be programmed. And so it actually takes intention, it takes effort. It's like working out every other muscle. This brain thing, they love to do the safe, easy, no, convenient, repetitive thing. Like they love it. And so all of that other stretching and thinking and expanding, that's choosing to go to the gym every day. That's choosing to juice every day. That's choosing whatever metric you want to, analogy you want to put to something that has some level of difficulty or resistance to getting it done. That same level of resistance exists in what we desire to have as our programming. So if we want it to be different, we must do it different regularly.
Right. Yeah. And it's one of the things that I try and teach everybody that I come across is that there is an unconscious emotional program that's running inside of every one of us. It's there for a purpose. It helps us to survive, and it uses negative emotions in fact, exclusively, it uses negative emotions to help us fight, hide, run away, or scream for help for anything that we perceive may threaten our survival. And that program came to us from our folks. It came to us as young children when we were being programmed. Okay, teach a child in the way he must go, and he won't depart from it. Right, just like it was a computer program, a living computer program. And in fact, that's exactly what we are. We're living out that computer program until such time as we wake up and say, "Oh, hey, wait a minute. Things aren't just exactly like I want them to be." Something shakes us up, whether it's a diagnosis, whether it's an event, a death, something horrible. We call that happens to us, and we say, "Hey, this program just isn't really working for me. I don't really know what's going on. I don't know where to go, but this isn't working for me." And it's at that point that we try and do something different. And reprogramming is a daily occurrence, as you have already figured out, and that's why it's so critically important that if you're running out an emotional program that you don't feel like is serving you anymore, it's critically important that you engage in a practice every day to attempt to reprogram that. And when you don't, just like breathing, if you don't think about it, if you're not conscious of it, you're going to go right back to breathing the way that your body says this is what we ought to do, and not know that there's a program that's there to serve you. Okay, and that program really does, it serves us, it helps us to survive, fight, hide, run away, or scream for help for anything that we think might be threatening our survival. And so it's critically important. And one of the things that I teach my people is it's critically important for you to understand that program is there to help you. It's not there to hurt you, but it's a primitive response. It's a low level primitive response that has its limitations, and that limitation is survival. And it did its job because here you are. Here you
Yeah.
are. Let's celebrate that. And then create the life that you want to as you go forward. And you have built an organization called the
The
Wellness
wellness.
Warriors Collective.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Wellness Warrior Collective.
So,
Yeah.
so tell us more about the Wellness Warrior Collective.
Yeah. So, again, I had a desire to be able to sit in circle with people, and I'll say it in my mind, it was to sit around a bonfire. Like I wanted to hang out with people that were excited to talk about holistic and spiritual and wellness content, all of the things. Like it was my craving. I wanted to be around people where if we were talking about, in navigating a conversation around the power of plants, or, is dairy healthy, or all of these things that we
You
wanted
know my
to.
answer about that, right?
I do, yes. And
Okay.
my other point to the way that I feel is that I wanted to sit with people who definitely don't always feel the same about things. I want the diversity in thinking, because that's where we stretch, that's where we grow, that's where we have dynamic conversations. So my call was to people who were excited about wellness, and that's what the Wellness Warrior Collective is intended to bring, is people, practitioners from all over the world, and where I get to investigate and go have dynamic conversation and meet with businesses that are bringing forth really powerful modalities in wellness, and ensure that our beautiful community members know about these healing modalities too. So that's the initiative, and you're absolutely 100% accurate. The journal, the self-love journal, is the daily self-love practice. It's something that's intended to be spoken into a mirror, ideally in your birthday suit. So, bare naked, if you will. There's more instructions inside the journal too, and to be written down. And it's all centered on you, because we've been conditioned in this world. And in fact, I'm in my first Bible study, and I'm seeing it even in the some of the religious texts around this idea of being being centered on self. And it's about, really what is being said there, as I'm coming to understand, is it's far from being about ego. It's far from being boastful. It's far from being conceited. What we talk about, and the reason we are inviting people into self-love, is from a space of deep honoring, from a place of celebrating our beauty, giving it recognition so that we can lean into it, ensuring that we understand the messages of our heart so that we can bring them forward more eloquently and more robustly, and loving on ourselves, because for some of us, it is the only person we have in our close vicinity to accomplish that thing, and to put that expectation and rely on external forces when it isn't available for everybody. The thing we can always give ourselves is ourselves. And so it's important that we show that that is okay too. And that's the mission of the daily self-love circle and the self-love work that I do.
And if people want to be a part of that, how do they get a hold of you?
Well, I am Lindsaya everywhere. So it's spelled Lindsaya. Lindsaya.com is all things me, and every platform. They usually don't let you have a period. So Lindsaya_. But listen, you type that in, you're going to find me. And then Wellness Warrior Collective.com will get you all the info too. And yeah, if they opt in one space, they're bound to get the other person, because I'm participating obviously in both. I'm very excited about all those that we collaborate in the Wellness Warrior Collective. Feel very honored. And we've got apparel. I've got my Warrior sweatshirt
Oh
on today.
yeah, check out the
We've got
merch.
we've got merch so that you can wear your mission forward too, and ensure that others know that you're choosing to amplify the wellness warrior within you. And we believe when we all do that to our highest capacity, we change the world dramatically. So we invite
Amen.
everyone into our family.
Amen to that, sister. Change yourself first. What is it? Michael Jackson's song. You got to look at the guy in the mirror, right? You want to
Yeah.
change the world. That's where you got
Mhm.
to start. Lindsaya Van Deusen with the Wellness Warrior Collective is our guest today on the Unlock a Life You Love podcast. My name's Dr. Teel. Lindsaya, I love having you here. Love you, sister. Love you so much, and love what you do. And I love your story. If people want to get a hold of you, Lindsaya.com and the Wellness Warrior Collective, you can look her up if you want to join that circle and start in on the self-love revolution. I like it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
So that's good. We'll have you back on the program another day, but that's enough for now. I told everybody we'd leave these conversations relatively short, and I want to honor that. So, Lindsaya Van Deusen, thanks for joining us today on the Unlock a Life You Love podcast. My name is Dr. Teel. I am the Doc of Unlock, and we'll see you guys next time. Thank you.